So this is everything you are going to need in order to create this super easy crust. I'm using coconut flour here, and I love this because it's high in fiber. It's also got a little bit of protein. Some ground flax, which really bumps up the fiber, which not only helps keep you full, but this also acts as a binder. A little bit of garlic for flavor and a pinch of Himalayan salt as well. And then to that, I'm adding in a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar as well as a cup of warm water. So you don't want it to be too cold. You want it about room temperature or slightly warm. Add everything into a bowl, and then you're just going to fold that together, and it's going to make a nice dough. And as it all absorbs, the coconut flour and the flax will help to bind, and we'll get a nice crust dough. So then while our crust sits, I am just going to chop up some veggies. I love doing mushroom and zucchini on pizza, but you of course can do whatever veggies you like. I also like to slice them really nice and thin so it's not too chunky on the pizza and they cook well. So chop that up into nice thin slices. Then once our dough is ready, we're gonna put that in between 2 sheets of parchment paper so that we can roll it out. I find this is the easiest way to kind of knead it and then roll it out to get a nice shape. So using your hands, you're just going to bind that together until you knead it into a smooth ball. And this one will come together really quick because the coconut flour and the flax do work together to bind. So just work it until you get a nice ball. And then with a rolling pin, we're going to roll it out until we get about 1/4 of the inch thick. I like thinner pizzas, but if you like your crust a little bit thicker, feel free to do it a little bit thicker if you want, and roll it out until you get a nice circle. And then I'm just going to use a knife to make a nice smooth circle shape, but you can definitely do a square shape or cut it into a heart, whatever kind of shaped pizza that you want. And then you can just save the remnants or the edges to make little pizzas or save it for another time. So you're gonna pop your crust in the oven to bake for a bit before we add all our toppings. And one trick I like to do with my veggies is I like to cook them first. And what this does is it really helps to relieve a lot of the moisture, especially from something like mushrooms and zucchinis, but this is also true for peppers. And this way, your pizza doesn't become soggy with all the moisture that comes out of the vegetables when you cook them, especially ones like mushrooms and zucchini. Also going to show you guys my cashew ricotta recipe, which is just some cashews, a little bit of olive oil, and this is really great because this keeps for other recipes too in the fridge, and it's a great dairy-free option. A pinch of Himalayan salt for a little bit of flavor, and then I'm also going to add in a little bit of garlic powder, which is optional but adds a nice little flavor to it as well, and the juice of half a lemon. And I've made this recipe for tons of things: pizza, lasagna, even as a good sandwich spread. It's definitely an easy dairy-free thing to have, and I've also had this at vegan restaurants and it tastes so good. So once your pizza crust is out of the oven, after about 12 to 15 minutes, I'm going to build my pizza. So I like to use pesto as a base, but of course you can do tomato sauce if you want. I've even mixed the two, and I find the blend of pesto and tomato to also be super delicious. So spread that around as much as you want, and then feel free to load on your toppings. So I'm loading on the cooked zucchini and the cooked mushrooms, but feel free to go crazy with this with the veggies, or if you want to add on some leftover chicken, that's also really good. Butternut squash, even some greens. I've even had shaved asparagus on pizza, which is really good. So feel free to experiment and really diversify your toppings, because I feel like pizza is definitely something where you can make it a million different ways and a million different flavors, because there's just so much sauce and topping possibilities. Another one of my favorites is to do a barbecue sauce with red onion and chicken. That's also really delicious too. So just load on whatever toppings that you want on your pizza, because then we're going to place it back in the oven. And this is also where I add in the cashew ricotta. So I just do a few spoonfuls on it, and I find this just adds so much flavor. It gives you kind of that cheese flavor without adding cheese itself. You bake it for another 5 to 8 minutes until the crust starts to turn a little bit golden on the edges, and then you have this wonderfully delicious pizza that is low carb, vegan, and delicious.